Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of light, the show of Mezonte, Mezcal, filmmaking, 8mm, and so much more, with what is such a privilege to share this interview with you guys after so many months of holding it back. The man, the legend himself, Mr. Pedro Jimenez Gurria of Pare de Sufrir and Mezonte in Guadalajara, Mexico, a man of Mezcal, a documentary filmmaker, a man who is so imbibed with passion for Mezcal and the arts that via music, via film, via conversations and dialogues, he's sharing his great passion for Mezcal with the world. He's someone that I had no idea interfaced with so many of the other lovable and amazing personalities in this industry, such as David Suro and Emilio Vieira, of which Emilio's interview will happen here later this week. But we got to sit down, Pedro and I, and talk about life, talk about family, and talk about all things Mezcal. He very rarely gets to make it into the States, and he is an articulate, artistic, beautiful person. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this wonderful chat with Pedro Jimenez Gurria.
I always liked music. It's something very important in my life.
Yeah.
And the other thing that took me to making films, it was like my dad always carried like an 8mm camera.
Did he really?
Oh, really? And I loved that.
Did he let you like take it and film?
Yeah, actually, what I loved most, it was like watching them like screening.
Yeah.
Right on
bringing
8mm.
people together and like kind of
the whole family, and we used to see like these vacations to Acapulco or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or they used to drive to McAllen or
Really? Okay.
Reno or stuff like that. They really like to get on the road.
Did you guys go to drive-ins at all? That was a big thing for my family and I.
Well, they were like, I don't really remember every trip, but I remember going to McAllen and going to Reno and stuff like that, like to hear the States. But I loved watching those pictures, like those movies, like projected in an 8mm projector.
It looks better on 8mm, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And I actually, like some years ago, I was watching them and I saw my father in it, and I saw my mom, and I saw everyone in the family, and I was like, so who was filming this? And my dad was like, you were. And I was like, really? Oh, okay, nice.
That's how old do you think you might have been?
Probably like 6 or 7.
Oh, that's incredible.
It is. So it was like, oh, okay. So I had like this background.
You did immediately, kind of thinking about how things should look, like how they should be framed.
Yeah, kind of.
Did you take that kind of, I'm trying not to make it into a larger thing than it is, but you have made a movie, Viva la Mezcal, right? Or Viva Mezcal. So, I mean, that's a feat. When you were younger, did you think about, man, maybe I'll make some movies. Maybe I will film some things.
Well, filming, it's always been present, not aiming to a feature film or something like that.
Yeah.
Because fiction hasn't been like my style.
Really? Okay.
I like more like either documentary or experimental film. That is the other thing that I do.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not always like concerned about I have to make this movie, or it just, for example, Viva Mezcal was just like almost an accident.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like a small capsule for this thing that was going on about NUM 186, and I was really concerned, and I thought, how could I help from my perspective?
Right.
And I told myself, well, the thing that I know how to do is to make films or make documentaries. Let's do like this 10-minute piece and let's spread the word of what's happening.
Use the talents you already have, right?
Yeah. Well, at least use the tools that I know how to use.
Sure.
And that became a snowball, and it turned to be a feature film, like for an hour and 18 minutes or so.
Yeah, something like that. It's incredible.
And it turned out to be like something that I really like about that film. Is not, I mean, it's not like an artistic thing or anything, but I really love that people who were working around agave and around mezcal and around all these things that involve mezcal culture,
right,
could at least be at once in a document.
Yeah.
And talking about all this great work that have been done for years, and but they were like working separately.
Right.
So for me, it was like a great opportunity to unite these voices.
It's amazing because you think about it. Many tales, many processes, they're only handed down verbally from generation to generation.
Yeah.
So the fact that, in a way, I think we're trying to do the same thing. There's this place in time and this sense of urgency that has to be captured. Because now we have so much technology, which I think, do you think the technology piece and YouTube and being able to post videos in a second, do you think that has been good for communicating and preaching the culture of mezcal?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can have access to more things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily good things.
Right.
I mean,
you get more, quality, but it doesn't mean good. Yeah.
But I mean, if you, once again, if you know how to use the tools, you can take advantage of that and really make something about with that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's more than what is the media, it's how do you use it.
How do you use it?
Yeah.
When you talk about documentary film and you talk about experimental film, can you recall things when you were younger, maybe a film that really had a lot of impact on you in those particular genres?
Oh, sure. I mean, I have a lot of them, but for example, one that I remember a lot is La Jetée.
La Jetée?
Yeah.
Chris Marquet, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I loved the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yes.
A lot of that kind of weird stuff, experimental
Very
stuff.
Very visual, right?
Yeah.
No sound in this case for both of these.
Exactly. The other one was just photographs and that kind of stuff really catch me because it was something different.
Yeah.
I'm always thrown to what's not what it's done like properly and very efficient. It's just like, okay, we've done that, we've seen that.
Right.
What else?
Something new, something unique perspective, right?
Yeah. To just like have like another thing to put into the arts. So just being our own perspective.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. So growing up then in Mexico City, as you kind of do school, and did you attend university there as well? What did you focus on there?
Well, my career is one of the worst in Mexico. It's communication. That's how it's called.
It's one of the worst here. Don't feel bad. It's like one of the worst everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they show you a little bit of a lot of stuff, so you don't really specialize in anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I started to go to this film school after I've done that, because now I knew that I was going to do something with films.
Yeah.
And I started to attending this film school that it's from the public school of University of Mexico. And that really took off, and I was like really hooked to that.
Did you ever think about becoming, or not becoming a filmmaker, which of course you would think, but did you ever think about coming to LA, for example, or really trying to pursue a career? No one wants to, but
no, actually, no, it wasn't like that. I mean, I didn't really felt like this urge to be like in the middle of the thing of like at least commercial stuff. Sure. I was more in back then into experimental films.
Yeah.
So actually, the place where our work was better received was probably Europe, in France, for example.
Really?
Yeah. There were like different, or also Berlin. There were like different experimental film festivals, and they were always like.
What kind of years are we talking? In the late 90s, the early 2000s?
Yeah, the first kind of short films that we started sending to different places, it was like 98, 99.
Oh, wow. Because do you remember Run, Lola, Run?
Yeah.
That was a big German film, like around that time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things happening in film in that part. And do you think that Mexico on the whole had a really strong film scene?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, it's called the golden age of cinema in Mexico, like 40s and 50s. Amazing. It was like a great era for Mexican movies. Yeah. And then they started like to turn to see how things were working at Hollywood, and they started to change
to emulate it and kind of try to be big budget, which takes the nature away from it, right?
Exactly.
You see this parallel I'm building, this metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It is and I understand what you mean, where you just want to do something unique, something spontaneous too,
and honest. I think the most important thing is to be honest. I mean, when you try to do things because you think it's cool or you're trying to copy some style or something like that, it kind of you can tell.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can,
and also you can tell when it's something that it's honest. Maybe it's not that big budget, or maybe it is, or whatever. But whatever you do, if it's honest, people can tell that.
I think so. It's one of those things you shine a light on, and it still sticks up as being honest and gritty often too. So when you finished film school in Mexico City, what were you left? Were you left with a vision? Were you saying, I really want to pursue this more? Or did you start seeing other things that you were particularly interested in?
No, I love doing what I did. And what I still do, like making films, making documentaries.
It's amazing.
I did also advertising and all kinds of stuff, TV.
Yeah, because you worked for a TV station, right?
Yeah, for all of the TV stations in Mexico.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, at least for a while in each ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like public television, like commercial television. Just for small seasons. I couldn't stay long in any of those.
Yeah, because it's not particularly creative, right? Like you gotta just do this thing. You're a set designer, a production designer, or something, right?
And actually, you can be a little bit creative. Yeah. And for example, in Channel 11, that was the one that I stayed most.
Yeah.
They let you be creative and really, they lose the leash, and it was really cool. But still, you were stuck in an office, and you had to do certain stuff, like very bureaucratic stuff, and it was fun, but it lasted like 2 years, and I had it, and I had to go to the next thing.
Do you like doing new things all the time, continually learning and traveling and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, just like moving furniture and stuff. And it was like I need changes, and I like to move things.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty. I mean, I like that because your brain is always moving. You're always thinking, perhaps, what's next? What can I create next?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a curse. Sometimes it's just like, why don't you lay back a little bit
and enjoy a little bit more? I mean, it's what I like to call ambition. In a sense, it's kind of the core of it, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's not that you becoming impatient or
greedy or anything like that.
It comes from a good place where you want to create something new, try something new. Were you ever into painting or sculpting or anything, using your hands particularly?
Well, I did some, like, took some lessons and stuff like that, but I mean, I wasn't like professionally into it.
Yeah. Through the lens is your particular medium that's quite effective. Mm-hmm. Did you one step getting closer into mezcal? What about food? Were you ever in the hospitality industry? Did you cook or anything like that? No, never.
I mean, I enjoy cooking, but never like professionally or anything. I like eating and drinking, like good stuff. Like I think anyone. But like I've never had a bar or restaurant or anything, and it wasn't in my mind at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So even early on, there's probably a big misconception we have in the States where we think Mexican families drink tequila. But from my understanding, they drink brandy, and they drink other kinds of things.
Whatever it crosses their their ways. Yeah, we drink a lot of things, and most of Mexicans try to emulate what's happening outside Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, especially in the cities.
Sure.
And in like big towns and stuff like that, they try to emulate basically a lot of it. It's the States or some certain countries in Europe.
Right, right.
But that's it. I mean, yeah, we tend to do that.
Interesting.
So I mean, when I was growing up, it was like all about vodka and rum and brandy and, well.
Was it pretty like, not to say your family drank a lot, but
no, not at all, actually.
Not at all?
No.
So your father didn't drink, your mom didn't drink?
No, I mean, they could have just like a rum or just like a glass of it, and that's it. But only in special days, like birthdays or something like that. They didn't used to it.
So then it makes me wonder, how do you, now mezcal is the perfect embodiment of creativity and the collection of colors and sights and sound, you know what I mean? Like, as a filmmaker, I could see where that interests you, but what was your first interaction with mezcal like, which seems to define this massive part of your life? Can you recall that, kind of getting introduced to it for the first time?
Yeah, I was around 15 years old, and I was traveling with my parents in Oaxaca. And we stopped at Mitla archaeological site, and I already been there in another trip, so I kind of went fast, and my parents were like laid back and taking their pace. And then I got out the archaeological site, and I went to this it was a mezcal store. They had like all this kind of cream of mezcal and stuff like that, like good mezcals and bad mezcals, and I started
all in the same place.
I mean, there wasn't like this kind of now like boutique stores and stuff like that. It was like just
no one knew what they had yet, right? They would probably, was there interest?
No, they were. They knew. I mean, the real producers and the real communities always known that was a quality product.
Got it. Okay.
But some other places that were more touristic, they were like, oh yeah, let's give these tourists whatever, and they won't know. And actually, it still happens. I mean, for me, that was experience. I mean, I didn't know about mezcal, and I was just like trying stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy behind the bar obviously was a guy from Oaxaca. And he didn't ask me for any kind of ID or whatever. These people are used to having kids drinking mezcal or any kind of thing. So I started drinking a lot of samples of everything. Obviously, I couldn't really recognize which one was good or bad, but it definitely kind of make a different experience for me. I mean, I hadn't had a lot of alcoholic beverage.
Well, 15, how do you...
Exactly.
Mezcal, I don't know that even 10 years ago that I could appreciate mezcal the way I can now.
No, of course.
You have to taste all these interesting things. You have to taste unfamiliar things to understand mezcal. Extremely bitter. Mineral, you know what I mean? So it's bound to be... Did you find it a pleasing experience?
It was strange.
Yeah,
it was exotic. It was like different. I took one with the worm in it. And
Right.
I went all the way, right? But that was just my first experience. But through the years, I kept drinking and going to parties and drinking a lot of stuff, vodka, beer, whatever.
Sure.
Like any other teenager. But every time that I crossed with some kind of mezcal, it was like something, this is once again, this kind of sense, like something was different.
Was it exciting?
Yeah.
Every time,
it was.
Right? Yeah.
Then it started to be interesting. And then after years of having this thing and recognizing that was mezcal that was doing this, I started to ask. But that was already when I was like in the university.
Right.
And making these trips to different places. I always like to travel. So I was like wandering many places.
Right.
And every time that I went to this different town, I asked for any kind of mezcal that they had.
Just get to take it all in to learn.
Yeah.
Did you like do you like to learn?
Yeah.
Do you like to research and these kinds of things?
Yeah. Sometimes, for example, at some point I just stop.
Yeah.
Because then you start to theorize everything and just to try to break it down through a structure. And that's not the way it happens.
That's not how art happens.
Exactly.
Right?
So you have to give a little space to intuition and to just live the things that you're trying and not try to break it down in formulas and stuff like that, because you take out the essence of what you're trying.
You're absolutely right. You take the passion, the romance out of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you tried to create some parameters around love,
it
would become incredibly mangled.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as special as it does feel like every day. And so you're tasting more and more mezcals, and it becomes even more interesting.
Yeah, actually, it was when I started doing documentaries.
Yeah.
And with this kind of itch of being documentary filmmaker, I started asking more and to try to know the producers, how did they do these things that they were doing, and just to talk about their experiences more than in the technological aspect or the techniques or the timing or whatever, just about their lives and stuff like that.
Who are these people? Because mezcal, you cannot make a film without it representing you in some way, and you cannot create a spirit like mezcal or soto without it being a part of you.
Exactly.
So you can talk about how you make it all you want. But did you find any kind of similar characteristics among the people that were crafting mezcal?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, all of them, they were all honest, hardworking people.
That's right, yeah.
Just for start. I mean, some of them, most of them were like loving parents and a lot of the romantic part of the rustic part of Mexico, like all these little towns, people tend to be like that. Probably like from 10 years to now has been changing a little bit.
Yeah.
And this romantic side of the Mexican fields and that everything is perfect in these places is not like that anymore. Not all of these places in Mexico,
but you see it cropping up more, that it's a little bit less at ease. Maybe.
Like this thing that was a little bit even naive.
Yeah.
But there still is like this romantic part, and that was the thing that I saw that these people had in common.
Yeah.
And then was when I started to try to research whatever was available. But back then there was nothing available. I mean, there was like this very specific and botanic academic type of articles and things.
Those are hard to read, though.
They are. I mean, you really have to get to know these people and try to understand all these technical...
That's the lingo, right?
Yeah. And then you start to get to know this and start to enjoy it too. But it was very technical, or the other thing, it was like very like... it was very... not that much informative. And more into the commercial part of it.
Right. Like maybe like an agenda?
Yeah, kind of like that. I mean, it was like a very touristic thing, and with all this, and basically everything was pointed to Oaxaca.
Right.
And yeah, there wasn't really much information. And now it's completely different.
We're enlightened now, if you think about the knowledge that we're
in
able
a sense, but also there's a lot of misinformation.
Sure.
And most of that misinformation is produced by brands. So if you want
the money, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to enhance the name of your brand and whatever, you talk about these beautiful aspects that it's supposed to have, but sometimes it's not true.
Sure.
And it's hard to find those. I mean, for people that doesn't know how it's happening, And if you see that on a website or on a video, it's like, oh, these people say that this is like the way it is.
Right.
But how do you really know that it's true? So it's kind of hard, and it's that for me is the like the worst part, because it's okay if you wanted to say that your brand is the best and that it's very traditional and it's hardworking families and whatever, but other thing is like saying lies to the people.
Did you feel like, because you're kind of immersed in it and you spent so much time with the people, that as maybe a man or a documentarian of the people, that it was maybe your role to be the truth teller, the one that says, I have an audience, perhaps, I have the intelligence, maybe it's my obligation to this art to share and make sure people know what exactly is going on?
I don't know if I felt it like that.
That was big.
Yeah. No, but I've always like been. I get very angry with people being unjust.
Yeah, unjust.
And it's just like I have to do something, and I get really like frustrated if something doesn't happen, or if you don't do anything or whatever. So, well, it was like, I mean, the first thing that I did, like that it expanded a little bit, was Viva Mezcal.
Yeah.
And
what year are we talking when you did that?
That was 2012.
So still kind of on before, at least in the States, mezcal was really, really growing as a category.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like growing even in a lot of places in Mexico. I mean, it only like have grown in Mexico City, and that was it.
Interesting.
But I mean, in Oaxaca, I mean, there weren't like all these places that now they offer mezcal tastings, and
so even where it is basically made a lot of the time, like there were places not serving it, but now they are, because even internally it grew.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
They have there's been a change on the recognition of mezcal through all Mexico.
Yeah,
and especially in Oaxaca, because it was like this place that was most known for mezcal production. And even I mean, even now people come to me and tell me like, oh mezcal, well, it's only produced in Oaxaca, and I'm like, no. But yeah, I mean, and not only like people from out of Mexico, people in Mexico
itself, and
they really don't know about all these other places that produce mezcal at the same time that was produced in Oaxaca. A lot of them on the same level of quality, but they're not as known as the mezcals produced in
It's
Oaxaca.
like, we have a lot of misconceptions in the States too. You think certain areas, they're conservative, these certain areas are liberal, but really we're a very big country. Mexico is a very big country, and so I guess it's not a huge surprise. We I guess it's really weird, and I think you probably understand this from the States' perspective. We're like, oh, Mexico's all kind of they get it. They're all like Mexicans, right?
Yeah.
But it is not that simple.
You've
got East Coast, West Coast. You have like all these kinds of interesting things. So how many years would you say, maybe an academic or creative pursuit, before you opened your first bar, were you deeply entrenched in the culture of mezcal, documenting and asking?
Well, I think like the first time that I went really, really in was for making Viva Mezcal.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked in other documentaries, like anthropological documentaries, and like all these customs of different and traditions of different places.
Yeah.
And they involve mezcal, but it wasn't all about mezcal.
It's just kind of like, it's a little underlying theme, right?
Yeah, and people that we interview for other things, like problems with lands and stuff like that, they were producing mezcal, but that wasn't the main subject.
It's so interesting that it's like, it's there, but not what you're there to cover, but it's always there and you're part of your life.
It's always been there.
Tapping you on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, it's kind of funny, and you understand it, that every time that people say, oh, there's a boom of mezcal, and it's like a trend, and it is for a lot of cities, but in the communities where they're produced, it's always been there.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, like electricity.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It's I call it a currency.
Yeah.
Right. It's a way that people exchange. It's a commodity. It's no different than bananas or oil,
Yeah, or clothing or language.
Exactly. Yeah. It is. It's part of that culture.
Mm-hmm.
So what enticed you learning from the documentary, learning from just being around mezcal for so long? What was the impetus for you wanting to start your own venue, your own mezcaleria?
Well, that was like more like a personal desire.
Yeah.
Because, I used to live in Mexico, and then I moved to Guadalajara.
Mm.
But
what took you to Guadalajara?
Well, a lot of things, but basically my wife.
Oh, okay.
Now my wife.
Yeah. Did you follow her there? And then that's how it goes.
Yeah, you know how it is.
I will not fault you for that. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it worked out in this case, so everything's it's going great.
As you were saying at the beginning, it just happened because it had to happen on that timing.
Exactly.
Because I was had it with Mexico City.
Yeah.
I was like looking where to move.
Were you a wild guy? Did you party a bit?
Yeah, kind of. I'm not gonna lie.
No. You seem very, very even-tempered and content and zenful now. You mean to me, right?
Okay.
But I could see, you probably enjoyed a good bit of college life.
No, for sure. I mean, we did a lot of parties, and we used to put music in different places and venues and stuff like that for different events.
Yeah.
And as I told you at the beginning, I love music, and I love hearing music, playing music, even DJing. And
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does a venue then provide a great place for you to enjoy all of the things that you love?
Yeah. It wasn't intended like that, but yeah.
It wasn't intended like that.
No. I mean, actually, as I was saying, I got to Guadalajara because they asked me to give a workshop of experimental film.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
And at a certain university in Guadalajara, and I went there. I stayed there and just started living there.
Mm.
But I was already like a mezcal lover for years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, I was surprised that I couldn't find any decent mezcal over there.
It's such a metropolitan epicenter of culture and things. You would think you would be able to.
Yeah, at least one or two.
Right.
But it wasn't. And so I started bringing mezcal from different places to different parties or to our house. And
how did you come about it? Like, how did you get bottles? With your relationships? Like the people that you had met?
Yeah, I mean, from different places, and still, like, I was still doing documentaries and films and traveling a lot. So every time that I went someplace, I knew how to get to.
You knew how to get the good stuff.
Yeah. So I brought some of that back to Guadalajara and started sharing. I mean, in different places, and people were like really amazed. And I've never tasted something like that, and I was surprised that some people even told me that they didn't even heard about mezcal.
That's
and I was
incredible.
like, really?
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. So I got started. That started me to be interested in that.
Yeah.
So we decided to start making tastings at our house. We had like a little yard inside our house, like a very old house, and just invite some friends to talk about mezcal and to try something. That I brought something really bad and something really good.
Yeah.
And they liked it, and then we started doing more. And these friends invited some other friends and some other friends, and there was suddenly once again a party at our house.
Club.
With 80 people around, and it was kind of crazy. But people
there's not enough sandwiches. We gotta make more sandwiches.
Exactly. And suddenly, kind of like a joke, and not that much. People started to ask us, like, why don't you open a mezcal bar?
Yeah.
And it's not that we didn't think about that.
Right.
Because we were doing our jobs, like in production and stuff like that. But
the regular stuff.
Yeah. It could be like plan B, right?
Sure.
And then after meeting the guys that now own Mezcaloteca, we were like we already knew them, and we talked about mezcal and make some mezcal tasting with them and stuff. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And 3 months later, after that tasting, we were renting the space at now the Pare de Sufrir, one of the mezcal bars that we have.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and we didn't thought about it too much. I mean,
What did you seek to achieve with that spot? Just was it more educational? Was it more casual?
It was like more educational because we started only giving tastings.
Yeah.
And we only opened Fridays and Saturdays.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the idea was to have this place just kind of following the kind of way that mezcalerias were in Mexico City, that were like really quiet and
intimate.
Yeah, pretty much. But that was the idea, the first idea.
And then you started DJing.
Yeah, actually, and that happened. But the idea was like to if you're gonna have the first experience with different types of mezcal, let's do it with really good mezcals or like really like the authentic kind of mezcals. And that's why we didn't offer any kind of cocktails, and we didn't offer like really bad mezcals. We were all traditional mezcals. And
how did people respond to it?
Well, pretty good actually.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, obviously, like the main concern was like, why are you gonna open a mezcal bar in the middle of the tequila land, right?
Yeah.
But people in Guadalajara didn't drink that much tequila.
Yeah.
They were more into whiskey or vodka or whatever.
Sure.
And if someone brought something new, it was like kind of interesting. The people were ready to drink something more than what they have been drinking.
So you captured it. You captured part of their minds. They hadn't thought about it. Like, oh, this is new. This is exciting. We've heard of it, but
you're
able to offer an experience. You know?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, we were trying to offer that kind of experience more than let's try this and get drunk with it.
Yeah.
It's more like, no, let's talk about it and let's party a little bit, but it was like that. And actually, it was like the first time that we opened Pare de Sufrir was for like the party of one of the documentaries that we did that didn't have anything to do with mezcal, but it was like the film festival that time at Guadalajara, and we hurried to open it up because it was the screening, and then we had to have the party.
Yeah.
And at that time, we didn't have even the bar. The doors of the bathrooms were just installed that day.
Right, wow.
We were and that was a really big party. And it was remembered and still being remembered nowadays. But
that's incredible.
And that kind of, I don't know if it's like set the ambience of that mezcaleria, because as I told you, we were thinking about like a really quiet place and stuff like that, and now it's like this crazy party.
I hear it's incredibly hip. A lot of students go there. Good music.
A lot of people go there. I mean, we have like these young guys from 18-year-old, and then you see next to them a couple of 60-year-old couple.
That's crazy.
And it's that's what I love the most of Pare de Sufrir. It's very eclectic.
Do you get behind the turntable at all?
Sometimes.
What would you spin? Like in this kind of day and age, is there something you're really listening to lately you'd like to spin?
I like to spin a lot of things. Anything that it's danceable. It can be cumbia, it can be funk, it could be dancehall, it could be whatever.
How do you feel about 80s?
Yeah, that too. I mean,
I'm sorry. I always think about Depeche Mode. I'm always thinking about Depeche Mode. I don't know why. It's always on my mind.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I throw a lot of 60s nowadays.
Yeah?
I like a lot of boogaloo and mambo and different kind of stuff.
Interesting. 60s, you say? Okay, I like that. So you get one notch on the belt. Now, this is not to make it seem like an ego thing, but you've captured the world of mezcal through a lens. I think you've expanded your kind of creative purview. You've opened this amazing mezcaleria. At that point, so Mezonte when did that sort of take form for you?
Well, it became a place. It was already a project because we were already working with producers.
What does Mezonte mean?
Mezonte is a synonym to mezcal in south of Jalisco. It's how people in south of Jalisco call the heart of the cooked agave.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of being mezcal in other places, it's called Mezonte over there. So it kind of really makes sense.
Yeah.
And the thing is that Pare de Sufrir grew and started to be more like this kind of bar atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah.
So people coming in and out and music and dance.
A little bit different than maybe what you'd originally intended, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And the main thing that was supposed to be that it was like all this information and trying to get people to know mezcal culture. It wasn't disappearing, but you had to go close to the bar or ask the waiter. Or
Right.
So we decided that we had to keep that going and keep the information going. And if we didn't want to just stop the nature growing of Pare de Sufrir.
Yeah.
So we decided to open this other place where it was intended just to put all your senses into what you're drinking and talk about it.
Yeah.
And just share both ways.
Right. Quieter.
Yeah.
More intimate in this case. Yeah.
Totally intimate. It's like the most people that can get in. It's like 20, 25 people.
So very appointment based?
It started like that, but we kind of thought that it was like a restriction for a lot of people that could be interested and not know about it. So we started open just 2 days a week, and for a very small time. It was like it's only from 4 to 8 p.m.
When did you open Mezonte?
It's a little bit more than 4 years now.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
And that's still the main objective of that place, to share the culture of mezcal, to try to understand it, and because it's clear that if you know anything, in this case this spirit, and the culture that it's behind it, and to really acknowledge as a cultural element instead of a merchandise thing, you can really respect it and enjoy it more.
Absolutely.
So that's still the thing with Mezonte.
So you've got your place to have a great time.
Yeah.
A little bit louder, a little bit more enlivened, but then you also have your thinker. So it's funny because it's kind of like writing a song that you unintentionally write, and everybody considers it an anthem. You're like, fuck, man, I was puttering around with that song, you know? It's funny to fall into success sometimes like that, you know? Well, and so from what I understand as well is beyond it being a mecca for mezcal, Mezonte is also a brand. It is a bottle. And I understand that, I don't know, I don't think John has a problem with me talking about this. It is coming to the States.
We're working on that.
Yeah. I hear it's inevitable.
Well, I don't know if that's inevitable, but we're working on that, and we're not on a hurry or anything. We're trying to do things the right way and try to respect the whole process of it.
Yeah.
And to see how's the best way to deal with that with producers, with the people who are gonna be able to have some this small batch,
right,
a little bit of that here in the States, and how do we decide that? Because obviously it's not gonna be, when it comes to reality, it's not gonna be like sending boxes and boxes and It has to be like it is, and you can't send that, so you have to work in a very collaborative way.
Sure.
So you have to see how do you work with people in Mexico and here in the States to make this the whole chain of communication the the best way.
As best as possible.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because you're here, in San Antonio to present with a few great people, including Ricardo, Vico, and Graciela is also presenting. And it is the concept, I think this leads into the next little bit of a discussion, but how to not start a mezcal brand, which is a little cheeky. It's kind of like a backhand. I like it a lot as a title for a course. So you obviously have great relationships. You've established that you respect the art and the culture and the people, foremostly, that make mezcal. Probably more than most people I've met. So for you, as mezcal grows, how is that going to take its toll on the people making the mezcal that we've grown to love?
Well, it's a tricky thing. I mean, I think both things are inevitable. One is actually the industrialization of it,
right,
and the other one is like the preservation of it. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, putting in perspective and thinking about other spirits that have gone through that. I think right now mezcal has an advantage that is precisely information behind it, and it's spread all across the world. And the other tool that it's really important is actually the things that we were talking about, media. I think now the social media is working a lot with that. I mean, it's another tool that you can use to generate this information and to make or generate awareness in people and in entrepreneurs and people not only that are interested in making brands or making commerce with that, but us as consumers or people that are interested in not only the drink but also the culture behind it and the archaeological elements, the cultural elements, the biological elements. There are a lot of things around doing mezcal and selling mezcal.
Far more than what we see.
Exactly.
It's like the cost of our meat here in the States. That's a great, we don't really think about where it comes from or the waste.
Exactly.
Or the ecological impact.
So trying to do that, it's like what we have to put the attention in. I mean, we really have to. It sounds sometimes I think it sounds like cocky, but you have to really put agave spirits in another drawer, as we say in Mexico, in another category, because it really is. I mean, it's a different type of how do you grow this raw material, what involves, especially, and I insist on saying a cultural element. It's not just like this merchandise.
Right.
It's a cultural element.
Yeah, people want to assign, like, they want to take the face off of it, right?
Exactly.
It's just a number and commoditize it. And I think you're right. I think that's what happens when you have any kind of art. Someone you've got the first one that's very honest, and then you've got the imitators, like you said.
But I think people can tell, as we were saying, that you can tell when people are honest.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in quality. When you taste something that has a lot of quality in it, you can't just look away. I mean, you really acknowledge that and see what's behind it in a certain way.
Right.
And like what I see, and for example, I'm giving you a hint of what I think I'm going to talk tomorrow about this,
please.
Is that you really have to get into the culture to really understand it, so you can really do a brand.
Is empathy a good word for that? Empathize?
Yeah. I think to really get deep in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you go there and visit one community once in Oaxaca and you say that now you know how mezcal is produced.
Right.
Nothing like that. I mean, you really have to live there, actually.
Be immersed in it.
Exactly. And it takes a lot of things to really, if you really want to do things right? So now you don't have like this argument that you don't have the information about it,
right?
Or you can.
Oh, you can't. Ignorance is you can't plead ignorance anymore.
Exactly,
because all of the information is out there.
It's out there, so you can't just look away.
Yeah,
I mean, you have responsibilities in doing that. So I think that's the main thing. I mean, to be responsible of what you're doing.
Where do you see yourself? Mezcal is a movement. If you think about it in terms of how many people are becoming involved with it.
Yeah.
How many different new amazing varietals even that are entering the States. New Puebla being a new state able to produce mezcal. I mean, this is great things, diversity. Where do you see yourself as having a particular role in this narrative of mezcal, or you're just a piece of this moving machine?
I think I'm just a very small piece of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you're very revered. I mean, people consider you a foremost expert in the field. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure it was completely unintentional, but like if you look at Mr. Mezcal now, right? Like you're one of the premier figures.
Well, I really don't know about that. Really,
that is my favorite answer. Of like people, whenever I ask somebody, it's like, how do you feel about how important you are? At least as I perceive it in this whole field. Like, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to do what I think is right to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that big importance and I don't really kind of, as I was telling you about jobs and stuff like that, I don't really like to be like put into a label and it's not because it has responsibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, if people perceive me as something like it's like something
that's
important of what,
absolutely,
you carry some responsibilities,
right? And you can let people down.
Yeah, right? But the thing is, the commitment for me in first place is with the producers.
Yeah,
and that's where the real intention of making all these efforts that we do is with their families.
Yeah.
And then if the other things come around and everything puts in place and whatever, okay, that's great. But yeah, I'm not looking at that. I mean,
you're an artist.
No, I don't know.
I mean, I think so, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, I don't. It's that. Believe me, that's not giving you too much credit.
No, okay, okay.
There are a lot of artists, but I feel like you're here for the right reasons. You know, you care about the people, which is an amazing thing. Which makes me wonder. You know, you have two successful bars under the belt, potentially going to bring some mezcal to the States that reflect your level of commitment to people, commitment to quality, flavor, all of that. But what does the post-mezcal world for you look like? Do you want to start a restaurant? Do you want to make a film? Have you thought about that?
Well, I keep documenting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, every time that I go to these different communities with the producers that we work with, I always carry my camera and take pictures or tape them and make interviews, and I've always done that, and I will always do that because I think it's a thing that we have to document, and especially right now, I think it's a very important
because it will disappear as we know.
Probably, a lot of it would disappear.
Yeah,
and so that's for me. It's very important to have it on tape or digital or whatever.
Archive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I see myself doing. I mean, I'm not thinking about another restaurant or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have enough with the things I have. And I mean, as I have a family, I like to spend time with my kids and wife and just have a regular life. I don't want to be involved in a lot of work and just to be a slave of that. So it's just like try to do my part. That's it.
That's amazing. Well, I have one last question for you because this is, maybe it's a trite question. I don't care, but I've talked to a lot of people and I really love asking this. And let's say you're in your favorite bar in Mexico drinking mezcal. If there was a single person that you would like to share a mezcal with, alive or dead, who might that person be? Filmmaker, artist, actor?
No, with my wife and kids.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Your favorite company?
Yeah. Definitely.
That's amazing, man. Well, I'm so glad we get to make this happen, and I think your work is important. Let me say, right?
Okay.
You know, I think it's important, and
thanks.
Your reputation does precede you, and you are amazingly humble. This has just been brilliant sit down chat, dude.
Thank you.
So, Pedro, thanks so much, and I hope to keep in touch.
Yeah, we will.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Well, there we have it, Mr. Pedro Jimenez Gurria of Mezonte, Pare de Sufrir, the documentary filmmaker of Viva Mezcal, a man who loves people, loves culture, loves art, and in a way, mezcal is the perfect culmination of all of those things of which Pedro is passionate about. It was just really lovely and a humbling experience to sit down and talk with him. A man who is by no means simple, but is so connected to his family, connected to the earth, and so connected to the people who devote their lives to crafting mezcal, a representation of their culture, a representation of their history, their family, and to be able to be transported back to these places via a bottle, via the amazing labels that Mezonte tries to bring to the forefront of the mezcal conversation. Just a lovely and very noble effort. So, Pedro, really just such a pleasure getting to chat with you, and I hope we get to sip some mezcales very soon. And thank you for listening to Show to Be with Mike G. No matter how many times you cannot stop listening to the new Royal Blood record, or you're thinking, oh my God, Baby Driver was exactly as good as I could have ever hoped for, and I want to see it again and again, please keep tuned.